First Contact and the Unexpected Alliance. Captain Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the cool metal of the observation deck window, watching the massive derelict ship slowly rotate in the darkness of space. The vessel was unlike anything in the human database, its hull covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift in the starlight. After 3 months of deep space exploration beyond the outer rim of human territory, this was the most significant discovery her crew had made. Captain, we're picking up very faint life signs from the alien vessel, reported Lieutenant Commander James Park from the bridge. His voice carried both excitement and concern through the intercom. The readings are weak, but definitely there. Whatever's inside that ship is still alive. Elena turned away from the window and headed for the bridge of the UES Prometheus. Her crew of 45 had volunteered for this long-range exploration mission, knowing they might encounter an unknown alien species. The Terran Federation had made contact with only 3 alien civilizations in the past century, and all those meetings had been brief and formal. This could be humanity's first real chance to establish meaningful relations with a new species. How many life signs are we detecting? Elena asked as she settled into her captain's chair. The bridge hummed with quiet activity as her officers worked at their stations. Dr. Lisa Chin, the ship's xenobiologist, looked up from her scanner readings with a puzzled expression. That's the strange part, Captain. I'm reading approximately 12 life forms, but their biological signatures don't match anything in our xenological database. More concerning is that their life signs are getting weaker by the hour. Whatever's keeping them alive is failing. Elena studied the massive alien ship on the main screen. It had to be at least 3 kilometers long, with a design that suggested both elegance and power. Scorch marks along its hull indicated it had been in battle, possibly decades or even centuries ago. The thought of intelligent beings slowly dying inside that dark vessel made her decision easy. Prepare a rescue mission, she ordered. I want a full away team equipped for emergency medical aid and first contact protocols. Dr. Chen, you're with me. Commander Park, you have the bridge. 2 hours later, Elena led her away team through the airlock into the alien vessel. The ship's artificial gravity was still functioning, though barely, and the corridors were dimly lit by emergency lighting that cast strange shadows on the walls. The architecture was beautiful, despite the damage, with curved walls that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. The atmosphere is breathable, reported Chief Engineer Maria Santos, checking her scanner. Oxygen levels are low but safe for short-term exposure. Temperature is holding steady at about 15 degrees Celsius. The team moved carefully through the ship, following Dr. Chen's readings toward the strongest life signs. The alien vessel was clearly built for beings much larger than humans. The corridors were wide enough for 3 people to walk side by side, and the doorways towered above them. As they moved deeper into the ship, Elena noticed that the walls were covered with symbols and artwork that told stories she couldn't understand. Captain, whispered Security Chief Robert Kim, look at this. They had entered what appeared to be a memorial hall. The walls were lined with images of beings that stood nearly 3 meters tall, with powerful builds and faces that combined reptilian and mammalian features. These creatures wore elaborate armor and carried weapons that seemed to be both technological and ceremonial. The artwork depicted great battles, moments of honor, and scenes of what could only be described as noble sacrifice. They're warriors, Dr. Chen observed, studying the images with her portable scanner. But look at these other scenes. They're also showing acts of protection, defense of others, rescue missions. These aren't just fighters, they're guardians. The team continued following the life signs until they reached what appeared to be the ship's command center. The room was vast, with a ceiling that disappeared into shadows above. In the center, arranged in a circle around a massive command console, were 12 alien beings in what looked like advanced medical pods. The pods were clearly failing, their lights flickering in their life support systems, making desperate sounds. The largest of the aliens suddenly opened his eyes. They were intelligent eyes, filled with pain, but also with an unmistakable dignity. He looked directly at Elena and spoke in a deep, rumbling voice that the universal translator tried to process. After a moment of static, words came through the speakers. Unknown beings, the alien said. I am War Chief Krell of the Thakari. We have drifted in the void for more cycles than I can count. If you have come to grant us an honorable death, we are ready. Elena stepped forward, removing her helmet to show her face. The gesture of trust was not lost on the dying warrior. War Chief Krell, I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the human ship Prometheus. We're not here to grant death. We're here to offer life. Krell's eyes widened, and he spoke to his companions in their own language. Elena heard surprise and something that might have been hope in their voices. Humans, Krell said finally. This species is unknown to us. Your vessel is small, yet you entered our ship without fear. Why do you offer aid to strangers? Because that's what we do, Elena replied simply. Dr. Chen, can we move them to our medical bay? Dr. Chen was already scanning the medical pods with her equipment. Their physiology is compatible with our life support systems. These pods are incredibly advanced, but they're failing. If we can get them to our ship, I think I can adapt our medical equipment to help them. The rescue operation took 6 hours. Elena's crew worked tirelessly to carefully move the 12 Thakari to the Prometheus. Chief Engineer Santos managed to interface their failing pods with the ship's power systems, while Dr. Chen began the delicate process of adapting human medical technology to alien biology. During the long hours of medical work, Krell shared his people's story with Elena. The Thakari had been members of the Galactic Council, a governing body that controlled most of the known galaxy. They were known as the greatest warriors in the galaxy, but also as protectors of weaker species. 500 years ago, their homeworld had been threatened by a cosmic disaster, and they had requested aid from the Council to evacuate there. People. The Council promised help, Krell explained, his voice growing stronger as Dr. Chen's treatments took effect. We sent our greatest warriors, our wisest leaders, and our most precious children to the evacuation ships. But the Council ships never came. We waited until our world burned, and still they did not come. Elena felt anger building in her chest. They abandoned you? Worse, Krell continued. When we tried to contact other Council worlds for help, we learned the truth. The Council had declared us extinct. They told the galaxy that the Thakari had died with their world. They erased us from history because they feared what we represented. What did you represent? Krell's eyes met hers with an intensity that spoke of both pain and determination. Unity without submission? We believe that strong species should protect the weak, not rule them. We formed alliances based on mutual respect, not the Council's hierarchy of control. The Council saw this as a threat to their authority. Dr. Chen approached them with good news. Captain, I have stabilized all 12 patients. Their recovery will take time, but they're going to live. Their medical technology is actually more advanced than ours in some ways. I've learned more about xenobiology in the past day than in my entire career. Elena made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. War Chief Krell, the Human Terran Federation would be honored to offer your people sanctuary. We have colonies that could accommodate your survivors, and we'd welcome the chance to learn from each other. Krell struggled to sit up in his medical bed, his massive frame still weak, but his spirit clearly strengthening. Captain Vasquez, you offer us more than sanctuary. You offer us hope. But I must warn you, the Galaxy Council will not approve of an alliance with the Thakari. They believe we are extinct, and they prefer it that way. The Galaxy Council doesn't get to decide who humanity befriends, Elena replied firmly. We make our own choices about who we help and who we stand with. Over the following weeks, as the Prometheus made its way back to human space, an extraordinary friendship developed between the two species. The Thakari shared their advanced weapons technology and their warrior traditions, while the humans provided medical care, food, and most importantly, Hope for the future. Engineer Santos worked with Thrakari technical specialist Vexai to repair and upgrade both ships. Your people have an interesting approach to technology, Vexai observed in his deep, rumbling voice. You make things work even when they shouldn't. You adapt and improvise in ways we never considered. We call it human ingenuity, Santos replied with a grin. When something's broken, we don't give up. We find another way. Dr. Chen spent countless hours with Thrakari healer Shender, learning about their medical knowledge. Your species heals remarkably fast, Chen noted. But more than that, you heal better when you're around others. Your recovery rates improved dramatically once you started interacting with my crew. The human network and Council's growing fear DR. Marcus Chen floated in zero gravity inside the research station Galileo, studying the most remarkable discovery of his career. 3 weeks after Captain Vasquez's rescue of the Thrakari had sent shockwaves through human space, Marcus had made his own earth-shattering find in the unexplored Vega sector. The beings before him defied everything the Galaxy Council had told humanity about intelligent life in the galaxy. Dr. Chen whispered his research partner, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the neural activity readings are off the charts. They're not just telepathic with each other, they're trying to communicate with us directly. The Veltar were unlike any species in the galactic database. Standing barely a meter tall, with translucent skin that pulsed with soft bioluminescent patterns, they possessed minds that could reach across space itself. Marcus had discovered them living in a massive crystal formation on an asteroid, completely unknown to the Galaxy Council, despite being located within supposedly well-mapped space, through painstaking work with universal translators and neural interface equipment. Marcus had begun to understand their story. The Veltar had been contacted by the Galaxy Council over 1,000 years ago, and immediately classified as too dangerous for general galactic society. Their telepathic abilities, the Council claimed, posed a threat to the privacy and security of other species. The eldest Veltar, who called herself Harmony, communicated with Marcus through gentle touches of thought that felt like whispers in his mind. For 1,000 of your years, we have waited in isolation. The Council promised to return when other species were ready to accept us. They never returned. But why? Marcus asked aloud, knowing Harmony could sense his thoughts. Your people seem peaceful, wise. What threat could you possibly pose? The response came not in words, but in images and emotions that flooded Marcus's consciousness. He saw species working together with a level of cooperation that current galactic civilization had never achieved. He felt the harmony that came when beings could truly understand each other's thoughts and intentions. And he understood the Council's fear. Telepathic species could expose lies, reveal hidden agendas, and make the kind of political manipulation the Council relied on impossible. They feared transparency, Marcus realized. They couldn't control species that could read their true intentions. Dr. Tanaka monitored the neural connection between Marcus and Harmony, ensuring the telepathic contact remained safe. Marcus, I'm detecting something incredible here. The Veltar aren't just telepathic with each other. They're natural empaths who can help other species understand and trust each other. They're living bridges between different forms of consciousness. Marcus felt Harmony's agreement through their mental link, along with something that felt like hope. We sensed your arrival from far across the void, Harmony communicated. Your minds are different from the Council species. You think in patterns of cooperation rather than dominance. We have waited so long for minds like yours. The implications hit Marcus like a thunderbolt. If humans could work with the Veltar, they could potentially communicate and cooperate with any species in the galaxy. The barriers that kept different civilizations apart could crumble, replaced by genuine understanding and partnership. Meanwhile, across human space, similar discoveries were being made by exploration. Teams who had been inspired by Captain Vasquez's success with the Thrakari, a news network calling it the Alliance Wave, as human crews found themselves forming partnerships with species the Galaxy Council had either forgotten Abandoned or actively hidden. Captain Sarah Mitchell of the transport ship New Horizons was dealing with the most challenging situation yet. She had discovered not just a new species, but an entire refugee crisis that the Council had been hiding for decades. The Zephyrians were a nomadic people whose homeworld had been destroyed in a mining accident caused by Council-contracted corporations. Instead of providing aid, the Council had classified the survivors as illegal migrants and scattered them across uninhabitable worlds. Sarah stood in the cargo bay of her ship, which had been converted into temporary housing for over 200 Zephyrian refugees. The blue-skinned, four-armed beings moved with a grace that spoke of their former lives as artists and builders. Despite losing everything, they had maintained their dignity and their hope for a better future. "Captain Mitchell," said Elder Zara, the unofficial leader of the refugees, "we cannot express our gratitude for your help. For 30 years we have been forgotten by the galaxy. Your people are the first to see us as beings worthy of aid rather than problems to be hidden." Sarah felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. The Zephyrians needed more than temporary shelter. They needed a home, resources to rebuild their culture, and, most importantly, they needed recognition that they had been wronged by the very organization that claimed to maintain galactic justice. "Elder Zara," Sarah replied, "humanity has several colony worlds that could accommodate your people. More than that, we have communities that would welcome the chance to learn from your knowledge of sustainable architecture and artistic traditions. You wouldn't be refugees in human space, you'd be partners." The transformation of the Zephyrian refugees when they realized they had found true allies was remarkable to witness. Their natural abilities as builders and artists, suppressed by decades of survival mode, began to flourish again. They started creating beautiful structures from salvaged materials, turning the cargo bay into something that resembled a work of art more than emergency housing. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the ship's anthropologist, worked closely with the Zephyrians to document their culture and history. "Captain," she reported, "what the Council did to these people wasn't just neglect, it was cultural genocide. They scattered families across different worlds to prevent them from maintaining their traditions. They wanted the Zephyrians to simply fade away and be forgotten." Sarah's jaw tightened with anger. "Well, they're not going to be forgotten. Not on our watch." The news of human-led rescue and alliance operations spread through subspace communications, faster than the Galaxy Council could track or contain. On the mining world of Kepler 186, human engineers worked alongside the insectoid Chitauri to develop new extraction techniques that didn't poison their homeworld. In the Centauri system, human doctors collaborated with the plant-like Verdani to create medical treatments that worked for both species, but it was the cultural exchanges that truly worried the Council. Humans weren't just forming military or economic alliances. They were creating deep friendships that transcended species barriers. Thrakari warriors taught human children their codes of honor, while human artists learned Zephyrian techniques for building with living materials. Veltar telepaths helped human diplomats understand the true feelings behind alien words, while human engineers showed various species how to adapt and improvise when technology failed. On the neutral trading station crossroads, the changes were most visible. The station had always been a place where different species conducted business while maintaining careful distances from each other. Now, thanks to human influence, it was becoming something unprecedented, a truly integrated community. Station Administrator Kexter, a member of the Reptilian Saurian Confederation, watched in amazement as humans facilitated cooperation between species that had been enemies for centuries. In the past month, he had witnessed Thrakari warriors and Chitauri engineers working together on a construction project, while Veltar telepaths helped mediate a trade dispute between 3 different species. "I have managed this station for 40 years, Kexler confided to human ambassador Lisa Park, "and I have never seen anything like this. The humans seem to dissolve barriers that we thought were permanent parts of galactic civilization." Lisa smiled as she watched a group of children from 6 different species playing a game that seem to combine elements from all their cultures. We have a saying on Earth, a rising tide lifts all boats. When we help others succeed, we all benefit. The Galaxy Council was receiving reports of these developments with growing alarm. In the crystal chambers of Nexus Prime, the Council's governing world, emergency sessions were being held daily as representatives tried to understand and contain the growing human influence. Council Speaker Vextar stood before a holographic display showing the locations of known human-alien alliances. The map was filling with connection lines at an exponential rate. In less than 2 months, he announced to be assembled council members. Humans have formed partnerships with 17 species that were specifically isolated or controlled by council directives. They are systematically undoing thousands of years of careful galactic management. Representative Qualdesh of the Silicon-based Christic Collective buzzed with electronic concern. The humans appear to be intentionally seeking out species we have classified as problematic or dangerous. They show no respect for our expertise in managing interspecies relations. It's worse than that, added Counselor Vizes of the Aquatic Deep Star Alliance. Our intelligence networks report that these alliances are not just military or economic. The humans are creating what they call cultural exchange programs. They are teaching other species to think like humans. The most disturbing report came from the Council's chief xenosociologist, Dr. Vexhai of the cerebral mindcloud species. His analysis of human behavior patterns painted a picture that terrified the Council leadership. Honored counselors, Dr. Vexhai began, his multiple brain stalks writhing with agitation. Humans do not form alliances the way other species do. Most civilizations create partnerships based on mutual benefit and careful negotiation of terms. Humans create what they call friendships based on emotional connections and shared values. Explain the significance, demanded Speaker Vextar. Traditional alliances can be managed, controlled, or dissolved through political pressure. Friendships cannot. When humans consider another species to be their friends, they will sacrifice their own interests to help them. They will fight authority to defend them. They will share resources without expecting equal returns. This makes them completely unpredictable from a political standpoint. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Galaxy Council had maintained order for millennia by carefully managing relationships between species, ensuring that no single alliance could challenge their authority. The humans were creating something entirely different, a network of genuine partnerships based on mutual respect and affection. Counselor Rises raised a webbed appendage. What do our projection models suggest will happen if we allow this human influence to continue spreading? Dr. Vexhai's response sent chills through the chamber. Complete systemic collapse of current galactic governance within 50 standard years. The human model of cooperation will spread to other species, who will begin forming independent alliances. Without council oversight, our authority will become irrelevant. Speaker Vextar turned to address the full council. We face a threat unlike any in our history. Not a military enemy or a technological challenge, but a fundamental change in how species relate to each other. The humans are infectious with their friendship, and that infection is spreading. The debate that followed lasted for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. The humans had to be contained before their influence spread any further. The carefully maintained order of the galaxy depended on it. Back in human space, unaware of the storm brewing at the galaxy's political center, the alliance building continued. Dr. Marcus Chen had successfully negotiated for the Veltar to establish a peaceful colony near the human research station, where they could share their telepathic insights with volunteers from multiple species. Captain Sarah Mitchell had found the perfect world for the Zephyrian refugees, a planet where human colonists were eager to learn advanced construction techniques in exchange for sharing their agricultural knowledge. The success stories were inspiring more human crews to venture into unexplored space, driven by curiosity and the growing realization that the galaxy was full of species that had been ignored or abandoned by the Council's rigid system. Elena Vasquez, now promoted to admiral and serving as humanity's unofficial coordinator for alien relations, reviewed the daily reports with a mixture of pride and growing concern. Humanity was making friends across the galaxy, but she could sense that the Galaxy Council was not pleased with these developments. Admiral, reported her aide, Lieutenant Commander Park, we're receiving increased subspace chatter suggesting the Council is planning some kind of response to our Alliance activities. Intelligence suggests they're considering formal restrictions on human-alien interactions. Elena looked out at the stars through her office window, thinking about all the species that were finally getting the chance to thrive thanks to human friendship and support. The Council could try to stop them, but she had learned something important about her own species in the past few months. Humans didn't abandon their friends, no matter what the cost. Let them try, she said quietly. They're about to learn. Why the most dangerous thing in the galaxy isn't a weapon or a warship. It's a human who's found something worth protecting. The ban, resistance, and new galactic order. The official Galaxy Council directive. 12,847 arrived simultaneously at every human colony, station, and ship in the galaxy at precisely 0800 Galactic Standard Time. Admiral Elena Vasquez read it 3 times before the full implications hit her. The Council hadn't just banned future alliances with humans. They had declared all existing human-alien partnerships illegal and demanded immediate compliance. Effective immediately, the directive stated in cold, formal language. All unauthorized alliance agreements between member species and the Terran Federation are hereby dissolved. Any species found in violation of this directive will face immediate suspension from Council protection and economic sanctions. Human vessels attempting to maintain illegal partnerships will be subject to seizure and detention. Elena's secure communication system lit up within minutes as reports flooded in from across human space. On New Geneva colony, Thrakari families who had been building new homes alongside human neighbors were being ordered to report to processing centers. The Veltar research station where Dr. Marcus Chen had been making breakthrough discoveries. In interspecies communication was surrounded by Council enforcement ships. Captain Sarah Mitchell's Zephyrian refugees were being hunted as illegal aliens, despite having lived peacefully on their new world for months. Admiral, reported Captain Torres from the bridge of the flagship Defiance, we're receiving distress calls from 17 different systems. Council enforcement fleets are moving to forcibly separate human and alien populations. Some of our people are refusing to comply. Elena felt a cold fury building in her chest. The Council wasn't just ending. The alliances, they were trying to tear apart families and communities that had grown together. Children who had been playing together were being separated by species. Scientists who had been on the verge of medical breakthroughs were being forced to abandon their research. Artists who had been creating beautiful fusion works were having their collaborative pieces destroyed as evidence of illegal cooperation. The response from humanity was immediate and unified in a way that surprised even Elena. Across human space, colonists, ship crews, and government officials sent the same message. They would not abandon their friends on the agricultural world. Of Kepler 442b, Governor Janet Walsh stood before a crowd of 10,000 humans and aliens who had gathered in the Capitol Square. Council enforcement ships circled overhead, broadcasting demands for immediate compliance with the separation directive. Citizens of Kepler 442b, Governor Walsh announced, her voice carried by speakers across the gathered crowd. We have been ordered to treat our neighbors, our friends, and our family members as criminals. We have been told that the bonds we have built, the communities we have created, and the future we have planned together are illegal. The crowd rumbled with anger and determination. Among them stood humans and Thrakari side by side, Zephyrian, families who had built beautiful homes with human construction crews, and Veltar individuals whose telepathic abilities had helped solve disputes and bring peace to the community. My response to the Galaxy Council is simple, Governor Walsh continued. We reject their authority to dictate who we can call friend. We reject their right to tear apart families. We reject their vision of a galaxy where fear and isolation are the norm. The crowd erupted in cheers that could be heard even inside the Council enforcement ships overhead. Similar scenes were playing out on dozens of worlds as humanity collectively decided that some things were more important than political convenience. Dr. Marcus Chen had barricaded himself inside the research station with his Veltar colleagues, refusing to surrender years of irreplaceable research. When Council forces attempted to board the station, they found something they hadn't expected: a coordinated defense by multiple species, working together with a level of cooperation they had never seen before. Dr. Chen demanded Council enforcement. Commander HFY through the communication system, you are in violation of galactic law. Surrender the Veltar individuals and your research materials immediately. Marcus looked around at his colleagues, both human and Veltar, who had become like family to him over the past months. Harmony, the eldest Veltar, touched his mind gently with her thoughts, sharing her calm determination and unshakable faith in their cause. Commander HFY, Marcus replied, the only thing illegal here is the Council's attempt to deny intelligent beings the right to choose their own associations. We're not surrendering anything. What happened next became known as the miracle. OF Vega Station. The Veltar, using their telepathic abilities, reached out across space to every human and allied alien within 100 light years, sharing their thoughts and emotions directly. For the first time in galactic history, thousands of beings from dozens of species experienced true mental unity, feeling each other's hopes, fears, and determination as if they were their own. The Council enforcement fleet found themselves facing not just the research station, but a coordinated response from every human and allied ship in the sector. Agricultural haulers, mining vessels, passenger transports, and exploration ships all converged on Vega Station, creating an improvised fleet of over 200 vessels. Captain Sarah Mitchell, commanding the refugee transport New Horizons, opened a communication channel to the entire assembled fleet. Council forces, this is Captain Mitchell of the Terran Federation. The beings you're trying to separate aren't illegal aliens. They're our friends, our colleagues, and our family. If you want to take them, you'll have to go through all of us. The Council commander found himself in an impossible position. His fleet of 12 military vessels was facing an armada of civilian ships crewed by beings who were willing to die rather than abandon each other. More troubling, his own crew was beginning to question their orders as Veltar telepaths gently shared the emotions and thoughts of the humans they were supposed to arrest. The standoff at Vega Station lasted for 3 tense days, during which time the news of humanity's resistance spread across the galaxy. The Council had expected quick compliance with their directive. Instead, they found themselves facing the first organized rebellion in over 1,000 years of galactic governance. On the 4th day, everything changed. Admiral Elena Vasquez arrived with the main human fleet, but she wasn't alone. Word of the Council's crackdown had spread to species across the galaxy, and many of them remembered their own experiences with Council management. The Saurian Confederation, despite being Council members, sent a diplomatic ship expressing support for human-alien cooperation. The deep space miners of the Asteroid Collective openly defied Council orders and declared their solidarity with human principles. Most shocking of all, 3 Council member species formally withdrew from the organization, stating that they could no longer support a government that ruled through fear and separation. Elder Zara of the Zephyrians, standing beside Elena on the bridge of the Defiance, watched as the massive combined fleet took position around Vega Station. Admiral Vasquez, she said, her 4 arms gesturing gracefully toward the assembled ships. In our legends, we speak of a time when all beings will stand as one against the darkness. I never thought I would live to see such a day. The battle of Vega Station lasted only 6 hours, but its impact would reshape galactic civilization forever. The Council enforcement fleet, facing overwhelming numbers and crews whose loyalty was wavering due to Veltar telepathic influence, attempted to withdraw. However, their retreat was blocked by the arrival of an even larger fleet, species from across the galaxy who had decided that the Council's time was over. The fighting was intense but brief. Human tactical flexibility, combined with Thurkari, warrior traditions, Veltar coordination abilities, and the diverse technologies of dozens of species proved unstoppable. The Council fleet was defeated not through superior firepower, but through superior cooperation. In the aftermath of the battle, as rescue ships tended to damaged vessels from both sides, Elena found herself face to face with Council Speaker Vextar, who had been captured when his command ship was disabled. "You have destroyed galactic civilization," Vextar accused, his insectoid features twisted with rage and fear. "Without the Council's guidance, species will return to the chaos and warfare of the ancient times." Elena looked out at the combined fleet surrounding them, where humans worked alongside dozens of alien species to repair damage and tend to wounded from both sides. Medical teams included members of species that had been enemies for centuries, now cooperating to save lives regardless of species or faction. "Speaker Vextar," Elena replied calmly, "what I see here isn't chaos. It's something your council never understood. Real unity doesn't come from control. It comes from choice. These beings aren't working together because they have to, but because they want to." The trial of the Galaxy Council took place on Nexus Prime, but it wasn't conducted by the victorious allies. Instead, Elena insisted on something unprecedented. A trial judged by representatives from every species in the galaxy, including those who had supported the Council. The evidence presented was overwhelming. For thousands of years, the Council had maintained power by deliberately keeping species isolated, hiding or abandoning those who might challenge their authority, and suppressing any natural tendency toward cooperation and mutual aid. Dr. Vexhai, the Council's former xenosociologist, provided the most damning testimony. The Council's greatest fear, he admitted, was not war or chaos, but peace achieved through genuine friendship rather than imposed authority. Humans proved that such cooperation was possible, and that terrified us. The verdict was unanimous. The Galaxy Council was dissolved, its members stripped of authority and sentenced to rehabilitation rather than punishment, a mercy that Elena had argued for despite the protests of some allies. 6 months later, Elena stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the new seat of galactic government built in the neutral space between former Council and allied territories. The station itself was a testament to the new galactic order, designed and built through cooperation between dozens of species, each contributing their unique skills and perspectives. The Free Worlds Alliance, as it had come to be known, operated on principles that would have been impossible under the old system. Instead of a ruling council, there was a rotating assembly where every member species had an equal voice. Decisions were made through consensus rather than authority, with Veltar telepaths helping to ensure that all viewpoints were truly understood. "Admiral," reported Captain Torres, joining her at the observation window, "the integration reports are all positive. Former Council worlds are requesting membership in the Alliance at a rate of 3 per week. The economic cooperation indices are higher than anything in recorded galactic history." Elena watched as ships from hundreds of different species moved peacefully through the space around Unity Station. Children from dozens of worlds played together in this station's parks, while their parents worked on joint projects that were advancing science, art, and philosophy at an unprecedented rate. "You know what the strangest part is?" Elena mused. "The Council was right to be afraid of us. Not because we're violent or aggressive, but because friendship really is contagious. Once beings see that it's possible to cooperate as equals rather than submit to hierarchy, they can't unsee it." Dr. Marcus Chen, now serving as the Alliance's first director of interspecies relations, approached them with his daily report. "Admiral, I thought you'd like to know that the Veltar have made contact with 3 more isolated species that the Council had hidden away. All of them are interested in joining the alliance. Elena smiled as she thought about the future that was unfolding before them. The galaxy was becoming something wonderful, a community of friends working together to explore the universe and solve its mysteries. It wasn't perfect, and there were still challenges to overcome, but it was built on a foundation that the old council had never understood. The simple but powerful truth that intelligent beings, given the choice, would rather cooperate than compete. The council banned alliances with humans because they were afraid, Elena said quietly, watching as a group of young Thakari and human engineers worked together to install new solar collectors on the station's outer hull. They were afraid that if other species saw how we treat friendship, they'd want the same thing. They were right to be afraid because that's exactly what happened. The new galactic order faced challenges, of course. Not every species immediately embraced the alliance model, and there were those who mourned the stability of the old system. But something fundamental had changed in how beings related to each other across the galaxy. The idea that cooperation should be based on fear and control rather than mutual respect and affection had been thoroughly discredited. Years later, historians would mark the Battle of Vega Station as the turning point when galactic civilization grew up, moving from a system based on dominance to one based on partnership. But Elena knew that the real victory had come much earlier. In a simple moment when she had looked at dying alien warriors and decided that saving them was more important than following rules. The Galaxy Council had banned alliances with humans because they were afraid of what would happen if other species learned to value friendship over fear. They had been absolutely right to be afraid because once that lesson spread, their entire system became obsolete. The galaxy was a much better place for their defeat, even if they were only beginning to understand why. As Elena watched the stars through Unity Station's observation windows, she reflected on the journey that had brought them all to this point. Humanity hadn't set out to overthrow galactic civilization. They had simply done what came naturally to them. They had helped those who needed help, befriended those who seemed lonely, and stood by their allies when times got tough. In the end, that had been enough to change everything. The galaxy had learned that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't technology or weapons or political authority. It was the simple but revolutionary idea that different beings could choose to care about each other, and that such caring could overcome any obstacle. The Council had been right to fear that power, because once unleashed, it had proven utterly unstoppable.